You can go down in history for outstanding achievements or exploits, but even a person about whose fate nothing is known can become famous. The main character of this episode is just such a person. This is Infinity, and in this episode I'll tell you about the most mysterious woman in history. Let's go! The Isdal Woman. There are many mysterious people whose fates still puzzle experts and scientists, but the Isdal Woman is a special case. That was the name given to the woman whose body was found in November 1970 in the Norwegian valley of Isdalen. Near, the police found an empty package from the sleeping pills, a bottle of liquor, 2 containers that smelled like gasoline, a silver spoon, and a completely burned passport. Policemen could not identify the woman, but they found that shortly before the accident, the deceased had left 2 suitcases in a locker at the railway station. Inside were her clothes with cut tags, a set of silver spoons, wigs, a few pairs of glasses, and a notebook with cryptic codes. Experts were only able to crack some of the codes, leaving the investigation to conclude that the mysterious stranger had traveled the world under 9 different aliases. In 2018, scientists conducted an isotope analysis of the victim's teeth, which revealed that the woman had spent her childhood first in Germany and then in France. Thanks to the analysis, investigators finally constructed a facial composite of the woman, but that was the end of their success. Investigators still have not found any possible relatives of the woman who could help identify her. According to one version, she could have been a spy, which is why she could have been eliminated. Agent 355. Spies in general are always something mysterious, and Agent 355 is a great example of that. This is another mysterious woman who lived a couple of centuries before the woman found in Norway. Agent 355, or Lady 355, is the conventional code name of a woman who worked for the future first president of the United States, George Washington, during the American Revolutionary War in the late 18th century. The woman's real name is still unknown. Agent 355 is believed to have provided important information on the British Army, with which the colonies were then in a state of war. One of the ways she extracted the information was through casual conversation. Agent 355 would go to parties in New York City, frequented by John Andre, the head of British intelligence. Andre was constantly getting drunk and blabbing to Agent 355 important details concerning ambushes, attacks, and sabotage. Agent 355 passed the information on to Washington, which enabled the colonial troops to prevail in the war. It's believed that Agent 355 exposed the treachery of the U.S. General Benedict Arnold and saved the troops of the French Marshal Rochambeau. Some historians argue that Agent 355 made almost the greatest contribution to the U.S. victory in the American Revolutionary War. It's a pity that Americans don't know who they should thank. The identity of the super spy has not yet been revealed. According to one version, in 1780, the mysterious lady, being pregnant, was arrested and placed on a prison ship where she died in childbirth. But this is only a version. Monica Lebau. I'm sure that each of you knows your past. You know who your parents are, where and when you were born, and who you really are. Monica Lebau is the exact opposite. Although this person exists, and unlike Agent 355, we know what she looks like, it's unknown who she really is. She lived with her mother, Burma, and father, Pablo, until she was 16, when she found out that Burma had had an operation to remove her uterus 20 years ago, even before she was born. So there was no way that Burma could have been Monica's mother. In response to Monica's questions, Burma said that Monica's older sister actually gave birth to her. According to Burma, the girl was 19 at the time and couldn't raise the baby herself, so Burma adopted Monica. However, Monica's alleged mother, a sister who was much older than her, did not confirm the story. When Monica left Burma and Pablo, she managed to find her birth certificate, which had many inconsistencies. Various details surfaced. Monica had been hidden from the police as a child. Not even the judges could find the adoption records. And the girl herself had probably been kidnapped as a child. Monica still doesn't know who she is, who her parents are, or what her real name is. Lori Erica Ruff is a similar case. No one knows who she really is either, but it's all her fault. The story began when Lori Erica Kennedy married Blake Ruff and took his last name. Lori behaved suspiciously. She tried not to show her face in public, persuaded Blake to get married without relatives, and to move somewhere far away with him after the celebration. Lori never talked about her past and acted very strangely. At one point, Blake filed for divorce and Lori took her own life. After the woman died, gruesome details began to emerge. All the answers were stored in Lori's safe, which she had carefully guarded and preserved during her lifetime. Turns out, Lori wasn't her name. The woman's name used to be Becky Sue Turner. The case became even more confusing when it turned out that Becky Sue Turner had died in a fire when she was 2 years old. It wasn't until 6 years after Lori's death that her alleged parents could be found. They revealed that her real name was Kimberly McLean and that she had run away from home because she didn't get along very well with her new stepfather. Was Lori really Lori Erica, Becky Sue, or Kimberly? What kind of childhood did she have, and who were her real parents? Apparently, that's something we'll never know. America knows many mysterious personalities, and Lori Erica Ruff is not the least of them. Much more mysterious is the Babushka lady. Of course, you remember such a notorious event as the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963. That incident is mysterious in itself, but its details are no less mysterious. The Babushka lady was the name given to an unidentified woman who may have caught the assassination of the U.S. president on camera. She was nicknamed Babushka because of her headscarf, a typical headdress of Russian old women. In one photo, taken not far from the crime scene, the Babushka lady can be seen standing in front of a passing motorcade holding a camera. Many theorists believe that the woman managed to film the moment of the president's assassination from a close-up angle. After the shots were fired, the woman continued filming for a while longer before crossing the street and blending into the crowd. After the assassination, law enforcement asked the public for all amateur photos and film footage taken that day, but no footage taken by the Babushka lady was found. Of all the tapes the FBI had, none were from where the Babushka lady was. It's still unknown who this woman was or if she really filmed anything important. One theory is that the FBI did find the Babushka lady, got the footage, and then either eliminated the woman or threatened to eliminate her if she blabbed, but that's just a guess. What do you think? Who do you think that woman was? A passerby? A professional photographer? An agent? Or just an ordinary person? Share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned. There are some more of the most mysterious people in history further in this episode. Still remember the Isdal woman? The Somerton man had a similar fate. That's why he may well be called the most mysterious man in history. His body was found in Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia on the 1st of December 1948. When forensic investigators began to examine the body, they were stumped. There was virtually nothing to say about the deceased. There was almost no evidence. All the labels on his clothes had been cut off, he had no ID or wallet on him, and his face was shaved. If the isotope analysis of the teeth was any help to the experts in the case of the Isdal woman, here the analysis of the teeth yielded nothing at all. The Somerton man was found with cigarettes, a box of matches, a pack of gum, a comb, a bus ticket, and a train ticket. It would seem that there was some good evidence and clues, but it wasn't enough. Forensics never figured out who the man was, and pathologists couldn't determine the exact cause of death. After a while, things got even more complicated when the Somerton man was found with a scrap of paper which was torn out of a book. It had the words "Tamam Shud," which can be translated as "is finished." What was it? A clue the man left before he died, or a message to someone? There are no answers, even more than 70 years later. Remember at the beginning of the video I said that even a person about whose fate nothing is known can become famous? Tank Man, or as he is called, the Unknown Protester, is just such a case. He became famous all over the world in June 1989 during the Tiananmen Square protests in China. Protesters were students who demanded democratic reforms in the country. Within a few weeks, the protests grew into a rebellion, which the government decided to quell. On June 5, 1989, a column of tanks left Tiananmen Square, but they couldn't leave immediately. An unknown man with a bag in his hands stood in front of the column and held it back for half an hour. Periodically, he moved away from the tanks and even climbed onto the nearest tank. After half an hour, the man was let out by law enforcement officers. It's still unclear who exactly the man was. But despite not being identified, he was included in the list of the most influential people of the 20th century, according to the Time magazine. The pictures of the Tank Man went around the world, and the protester himself became a symbol of freedom and disagreement with tyranny. Li Xingyan. China knows many mysterious personalities, and Li Xingyan is another of them. This compatriot of the Tank Man was able to shock the world with his age. According to various sources, he lived 256 years. Supposedly, he was born in 1677 and died in 1933. To give you a better understanding of the scale, Li Xingyan was born only a few years later than George I, the great king of Britain, and died when Elizabeth II was already living. It's very impressive to outlive several epochs. Maybe there's some secrets? As Li Xingyan himself claimed, to live long, one must keep a quiet heart, sit like a tortoise, walk sprightly like a pigeon, and sleep like a dog. In addition to this approach to life, Li allegedly consumed medicinal mountain plants that prevented the onset of old age. Since there are no documented sources for Li Xingyan's birth, he cannot be officially recognized as the oldest man in history. Many people doubt that Li lived so long at all, considering his story a myth, and some people are certain that Li Xingyan is not a single person but a generalized character of a Chinese elder and sage. Nevertheless, quite a few people are certain that such a person existed and that he did indeed live for more than 2 centuries. Caspar Hauser. If Li Xingyan really was such a super centenarian, it means that he lived when Caspar Hauser lived. However, these mysterious persons did not exactly cross paths with each other. Caspar Hauser has gone down in history as a mysterious foundling and one of the major mysteries of the 19th century. He was spotted in the street of the German towns of Nuremberg in 1828. Caspar could tell the police nothing and wrote only his name. To all questions, he answered either "I don't know" or he told that he wanted to be a cavalryman like his father. Trying to figure out who the foundling was, the police searched Caspar and found an envelope with 2 notes on it. The first was written by the boy's guardian, who told them that Caspar had been brought up by an unknown woman in 1812 and that he'd been kept in an underground prison ever since, never leaving his home. The same note said that the boy wanted to become a cavalryman. The second note was written by Caspar's mother before parting with her son. The woman wrote that Caspar's father was dead and that she could not raise Caspar alone, and at the age of 17, Caspar should go serve in the cavalry regiment where his father had served. The boy, nicknamed the Child of Europe, was very withdrawn and strange. The years in prison could not pass without a trace. Caspar ate only black bread, drank only water, called all people boys and all animals horses. But Caspar quickly became accustomed to society. Within a few years, he'd mastered several languages, changed several guardians, and acquired many useful skills. Unfortunately, in 1833, Caspar was killed in an attack by an unknown man. Perhaps if he had lived longer, he would have been able to tell his mysterious story in more detail. In the meantime, he still remains one of the most mysterious people on the planet. Even modern scientists, having examined Caspar's DNA, have not been able to establish who this guy really was. That's all, guys. Who do you think Caspar Hauser and the other people from today's episode were? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.